Welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Gangster Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Pieraldi, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're moving into Guest Spotlight Wednesdays. And for today's conversation, it's about transformation, intuition, reinvention, and what happens when someone leaves behind the life they built to follow the life their soul was calling them toward. I'd like to welcome Jeffrey Eisen to the show. Jeffrey is a spiritual life coach, teacher, energy intuitive, Reiki master, and channeler of Shaltazar. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I've been so eager to have you on and just to kind of like pick your brain. I'm so curious, for listeners meeting you for the first time, who is Jeffrey Eisen beyond all these titles and labels?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because when I did my do-over in life, I like to say that because for the first 50 years of my life, it was very, very typical. And then I got this do-over. And when I started to do coaching, my brand was the journey of self-discovery. And so I can't answer that because next week I'm going to be 74 and I am still discovering who I am. So I have a better sense of who I am now than in the first 50 years when I guess I could say when I was what I was supposed to be or what I was taught to be.
Right.
But I'm still discovering. I am still discovering that. And for me, one of the biggest aspects of my journey, and it was a phrase coined by one of my early coaches, is around mastering the duality. Because there are two aspects of me. There is the human aspect of me, even though now I am deeply spiritual and connect to the unseen world, very strongly. There is also that part of me that is invisible, that has been here many times before, that has experienced everything that ever was, everything that is, and everything that will ever be. So, and to be honest, sometimes I like to escape to that aspect of myself because it's a lot more fun.
No doubt.
A lot less stressful. But I believe I am here, as most of us are, to have this opportunity to find the balance, to master the duality, to be spirit in human form. So I guess that's who I am. I have discovered as I began my journey, someone helped me coin what I believe my purpose is, and that is to awaken, empower, and inspire others by sharing my love and wisdom. And when I do that, and thank you for this opportunity to be on your podcast.
Oh, you are welcome.
Because whenever I am sharing what I have learned, it feels like that's who I truly am.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So where does your story start, would you say?
As I say, there's this two parts.
Yes.
It's like the first 50 years and so far the last 20 some years. I was born and raised in a small town, grew up with very traditional parents, didn't realize it at the time, but my father was in a family business and I guess I was drawn to pay attention to the business.
Oh.
As I reflected on it later in life, it was because what I was looking for from my father was recognition, appreciation, love, all of those things. So I paid attention to the business and would spend time at the business and wound up spending my summers there, dropped out of university, went back into the family business at 21, worked for close to 30 years building the business. And if you would have asked me then, I would have said, I am the business, I am the entrepreneur, I am all of those things. But of course, that's not who I truly am.
No.
And as the company grew, we had a number of employees. We're up over 80 employees at the time. We hired a consultant, a human resources consultant that started to bring in training. I started to get interested in leadership because I was self-taught. I had never worked for anyone in my life. I was reading leadership books. And then he started to give me some personal development books. And one of the first books that he gave me, I went off on vacation and I remember it very, very distinctly, was Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what
No, but I'm gonna make a little note here that I'm like, "I'll
yeah,
check
it's an
this out."
interesting, and I look back and I see that I was being guided and I didn't understand it at the time. I needed something that was not that was more motivational with a little bit of spirituality, and that's what Robin Sharma was. And he became my first coach, and then I had other coaches, and I was an avid reader. I was reading 50, 60 books a year. It was like, wow, this stuff is really interesting. Nobody ever told me about this stuff.
Right?
I was a Hay House junkie. I don't know if you're aware of Hay
Yeah, oh,
House,
yeah.
but right, and we even got a chance. My son befriended Louise Hay, and we got a chance to co-write a
Oh
book
my
together. So that was
fantastic.
interesting. So I had all these great experiences as I started to um, open up to what I never knew about for those first 50 years, and discover myself. Got into spirituality. Went into checked out all kinds of healing modalities, and it was through a journaling practice that Robin Sharma taught me to do. He taught me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's a big believer in early awakening, and to meditate and read and journal. And in the beginning, my journaling was just letting go of some of the emotional baggage of those 50 years that I had suppressed. Being a man born in the 50s, we are taught to not be sensitive.
Right.
Right. And so the journaling was sort of what I affectionately call, cleaning the swamp, so to speak,
I like
getting
that.
rid of all of the emotional trauma. I began after that happened, I began asking questions. I really enjoyed the exercise, the process, the practice of journaling. And so I would start to ask questions, and lo and behold, I through the pen, there seemed to be answers that were beyond me. I would read it to my wife and she would say, "Who wrote that? You didn't write that, did you?" And it's like, well, yeah, I did, but doesn't sound like me. And that began my connection to Shaltazar, which is an entity that I have been channeling for a number of years, and they have shared wisdom with me, and I share it with others. So, yeah, that's a long answer, right?
No, but that's fantastic. Do you think that you could explain, like, what channeling means in your own words so that, like, just some listeners might be unfamiliar, like, what does that mean, channeling?
Right. I believe that we have the ability to connect to the unseen world. The unseen world is, some people call it angels, guides, whatever. Interestingly enough, I am a believer that no one will ever know what the unseen world is all about. There's an ancient text called the Kabbalion. It is the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Oh, love it, love it. And
Fascinating.
there's a line in there. They refer to the higher power as the all, and the line is, the all is unknowable and unthinkable. And so I have adopted that, and I remember a young man I was coaching said to me he was rather amazed that I was so passionate about tapping into something I would never fully understand or know what it was. It's like, yeah, but I just love the journey of it. So I have been fortunate enough to connect to the unseen world, and I love teaching people how to connect to the unseen world. And I mean, if you have a couple minutes, I'll give you my 5 steps that I believe.
Oh, I'd love it.
Right. Um, and I'm not really a step person, because in order to connect to the unseen world, we don't want to be in our logical mind. So step one is preparation. That's where meditation comes in. That's where quieting the mind. Shaltazar would say, quiet the mind and open the heart. And you want to get into a sensory place, because you're not going to be able to tap in And channeling is just connecting to the unseen world. Some people
Right.
call it channeling. Some people call it intuition, sixth sense, whatever it is you wish to call it. Um, we all can get good enough that more concise messages can come across. So step one is that preparation, and preparation is something that we all have to do in the beginning, but as we sort of get good at it, it's not as necessary. I'm on Insight Timer. I'm not sure if you're aware of the meditation app. Great app.
No.
Check it out. Insight
Inside
Timer.
timer. Okay.
Yeah,
Inside.
yeah, there's like millions of people on the app, and there's like I think 20,000 teachers
Oh,
that give up their time, and I'm one of them. All the content of Shaltazar is on there, and I do lives every week, and every once in a while someone will say, "Okay, well, have you got a message from Shaltazar?" And I don't need the preparation; I can go right in to
okay.
the channeling. But in the beginning, that journaling, the early awakening, music playing in the background, a dark room. That was my preparation to let go of the mind, let go of the ego, and just open. And step two is the sensory download. The reason that we want to quiet the mind is because the mind is not going to be the receiver or the receptor of the message. The mind can be, I'll get into that in a minute, the translator, but it is our sensory consciousness. Many people have heard of clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant.
Yes.
Those are four sensory pathways. The clairaudient will get an
Right.
auditory message. The clairvoyant will see a vision. The clairsentient will feel it. The claircognizant just has a deep knowing. Shaltazar leads me to believe that there are infinite sensory ways. So we don't have to sort of get stuck in, well, I'm not hearing a voice or I'm not seeing anything. Doesn't matter. As long as you get that sensory connection, that openness, you feel it. That's why, if you're in nature, if you are listening to sound healing, you are more receptive to
Absolutely.
getting that sensory download. Step number two. Step number three is the translation or transcription. So any channeler that anyone chooses to tap into, there's some famous channelers throughout the ages. One of the ones that I used to listen to a lot was Lee Carroll channeling Cryon. There are many, many, many channelers. The words they are speaking are not the words that the unseen world is speaking to them in, because they speak in a sensory way. And it was kind of interesting because in the beginning, I believed that whatever I wrote down on the page was the words of Shaltazar, and I can't change it. It's like, no, you just don't change that word, even though it may not make sense. Well, I've come to learn that's not the case. That is my translation or transcription.
Oh, that makes sense.
And whatever your filters are, that is what the translation is going to look like. So how I channel Shaltazar today is very different than I channeled Shaltazar 15 years ago, because my filters are different. I hopefully my consciousness is raised.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So my translation will be slightly different.
Different.
Um,
Okay.
Right. Step four is what I call interpretation. And the example that I like to use, it's a simple one. There was a message, there was a phrase in a message that came through. It was be still, be more still, be still again. Okay. So one could assume that that's just a redundancy, right? That's just Shaltazar trying to, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But my interpretation of it is they're saying be still, right? So in other words,
Right.
you want to connect to the unseen world, you want to be in that place of stillness, right? And when they say be more still, my interpretation is there are layers of stillness. The
Yes.
deeper you go, I'm sure you've experienced it, right?
Yes.
You get that still point, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's like magic, because it's a deeper still point, right?
Right.
So when they're saying be more still, they're saying there are layers of stillness. And when they say be still again, they're saying you got to practice it.
Just keep
So
practicing.
that's a very, a quick example of interpretation. So when we get our messages, and our messages can come in numerology, they can come in colors, they can come in animal totems, they can come in any way at all. I get messages through my wife. Now, I will have to tell you that in the beginning, I ignored them because her delivery wasn't great, right? It would be like scolding me, and it's like, hey, and you start defending yourself. And then when you reflect, you say, my goodness, that's the universe. So you realize that that these messages are coming from all kinds of different areas in your life. And that's why interpretation, which Shaltazar has led me to believe, is an art, not a science. So you don't want to interpret from your logical mind. You want to play with it. So if you get a hit, you get a nudge, you get something from the unseen world, journal with it, meditate with it.
Okay.
What is the deeper meaning of it?
Okay.
And the fifth and final step, which I sort of added to the steps, within the last year or so, and that is implementation. Because so many people can get that channeled wisdom, they can get their nudges, and it's really neat, but then they don't do anything with it. And I will end by saying that those steps are not chronological order. Your implementation, you do something, you don't get what you want, you got to go back to the interpretation, you got to go back to the translation, you got to tap in
Right.
again. I say that communicating with the unseen world is like a treasure hunt,
Okay.
and they will give you tidbits. They do not speak. Shaltazar says, we do not speak in logical sentences. We do not speak in language. And we're very used to, you and I are
Right.
communicating very much by language, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So if you want to tap into the unseen world, you kind of got to get out of that linear, logical way of
Exactly.
communicating.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. I was wondering as well, like, when when would you say that you first realized that you were tapping into Shaltazar? Was that with the journaling and feeling like, wow, what did I just write? Like, is that me?
It
What is that?
was, but it was kind of interesting because in the beginning of my journaling, and I'm going back rereading it, it's just something I like to do, and I think I'm up to around 2008, and this probably happened around 2005, 2006. In the beginning, from that letting go of the emotional trauma, I kind of thought I was talking to God. And it
Right.
was sort of like Neil Donald Walsh conversations with God, because I didn't know, right? I didn't know what the hierarchy is.
Right.
There
And
is
how
there
were
a
you
hierarchy?
right? How were you able to differentiate that?
Well, it just felt loving, it felt kind, it felt understanding, and there were little tidbits of wisdom in there. One of the phrases that I got just about every journaling was release, let go, and surrender, right? And that was all part of letting go of the layers so I could communicate. And so I really didn't know what it was. I wasn't one of these people that had to give it a name. So it was just like, I thought I was talking to God. And it's really fascinating. I probably didn't remember it, but by rereading my journal, I came to realize at one point, the energy I was talking to, or communicating with, went from saying I, or, the singular, and it started to become we. It started to become we. And it's like,
Oh,
that's interesting. That's interesting. And then I got a name called Calcitron, and I thought, oh, okay, so that's who I'm communicating with. But then I got this nudge that was a place. Don't know, maybe where I came from, or maybe where I'm going. And it sort of faded into the background. Then a phrase, Gavish Bunny Nu, came up, and it's like, oh, I guess I'm talking to the Gavish Bunny Nu. I've come to realize that Gavish Bunny Nu is the transmitter of divine wisdom. It's just gibberish, but that's what it was. And then I heard Shaltazar, and that stuck. And so um, it was not like right then and there Shaltazar. It was over months that it went from I think I'm talking to God And I kind of kid around saying God was too busy. So it put me off onto Shaltazar, but it doesn't really matter. It was just that evolution, so to speak. And interestingly enough, as I started to communicate with Shaltazar, I got 33, and I'm into numerology. So I looked it up, and it's a master number. It's the master teacher.
Oh,
And so it's like, okay, so you're here to teach me. I get it, right? Gavish Baninu, transmitter of divine wisdom. And in the beginning, I thought it was just for me. I thought it was just for me. And there came a point where I would reread my journal entries, as I said, share them with my wife. It's like, this is not you. Who is this? And I thought this is just for my personal development. And I would try to put into practice some of the wisdom that came through. And then I got this nudge. It's like, I got to share this with the world. And so I combed through all my journal entries and I picked 16 of them that I thought were very powerful. The universe brought me this amazing man who had a sound studio in his basement. He also was a music creator. I went to his basement. I recorded 16 of the messages and he put background music and we created a 2-disc
wonderful.
CD, The Messages of Shaltazar. And so that's sort of how it evolved. When I end by saying, for the longest time, I knew them as the energy of 33, the master teacher. A few years ago, I was having a Reiki session, and the Reiki master was brought to tears, saying that she was feeling the energy of Shaltazar. She says, "I feel them in the room. I feel them in the room." And she's saying, I'm getting 44. I'm getting 44. And I said, no, it's 33. It's 30. No. She said, I'm getting 44. I keep hearing 44. I went home. I meditated. I looked it up. 44 is the master healer. And it was at that point that I realized that their energy coming through me was shifting from being the teacher to the healer. My job then is to help heal, not just bring out this wisdom and say, here it is, this is what came to me, do what you want with it. And so a lot of the more recent Shaltazar messages are helping people heal, more so than just the wisdom itself.
And have you ever felt like you've doubted your gifts, or has it always been like so concrete that you've believed in everything with
Of
these
course, I
gifts?
doubt them when there's a full moon, where there's a new moon, where there's eclipses, where I don't sleep enough. Of course, yes. All often I doubt them, and I go through these peaks and troughs where the ego comes in. Remember, I said at the
Yeah,
beginning that part of our life's purpose is mastering the duality. So
right.
when I pull back from my connection to my divinity, then the ego comes up and it's like, yeah, you're not doing this well enough. This isn't what the soul's purpose was. And right. So yeah, but I've come to be okay with that. I come to look at that in terms of, oh, I guess they want me to rest, right? Because it can be pretty debilitating. It often brings me to tears. It brings me to, I mean, you're tapping into this wisdom. It's so humbling. And then you tap into other people's energy and it's like, yeah. So all of a sudden it's like they pulled a plug on the connection and, you're left with your ego and your humanness. And, but I've gone through the cycle enough times that I know that this too will pass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was that? Did you ever have to unlearn, like, were there certain things that you had to unlearn in order to receive this information?
100%. Oh.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was a 180-degree turn. Most of what I believed in the first 50 years, I have unlearned and then relearned. That's
Oh,
why I say it's a do-over. It's like
right.
two lives is right.
Really
It's like,
is.
yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. So many of my beliefs. And I'm still, unlearning them and relearning them. Shaltazar leads me to believe that everything is in layers. So some of those deep-rooted ones, being in business for 30 years and now being a spiritual life coach and a channeler and an energy intuitive. And of course, to get out there, you kind of have to make it a business. You have to make it financially viable. You have to sort of do this marketing. But I don't want to do it because it was painful and it was difficult and
Yeah.
it caused me, health issues, Crohn's disease, you name it. So yeah, it's sort of like that's one I'm still working on is how can I do what I'm doing? How can I make it financially sustainable without doing the traditional entrepreneur marketing capitalist mentality? And I haven't figured that one out yet, but that's okay. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, you still got time. You still got time. What do you think people are truly searching for, like underneath success, relationships, and achievement? What do you think people are really searching for?
I think people are searching for meaning, an understanding of what's this all about. They're looking for fulfillment. And most of our physical trappings, all of the things that we tend to want, um, we think they will give us that fulfillment. I think we're looking for joy. I think we're looking for love. I think we're looking for companionship. And I guess I would summarize this because when I work with people, I think everybody wants the feeling, but we're focused on how we think we should get the feeling. We've lost that connection to what we truly want. What we truly want. You heard me list off the things. They were all feelings. And yet we think it's the job, the house,
The
the
physical
car,
thing.
the
Yeah.
partner, the family. We think it's all of those things. But everybody I've worked with, when you go deeper, they realize that what they really want is the feeling that those things give them. And Shaltazar says to focus on the what, not the how.
Right.
So it's yeah, it and we lose track of that. We think that the crystals, we think that
Yeah.
the podcast, we think, oh, but what we want is what those things will make us feel. And so Shaltazar's advice is to focus on the what. And I have this line that came to me a long time ago: give the universe some wiggle room. They will help you with the
Absolutely.
how.
Oh, absolutely.
Focus on the what, right? But most of us really want that, and especially love, because I believe that's what we were separated from, the unconditional love of source upon our incarnation. So I think that's at the root of most of our desires
Right.
is that unconditional love to be accepted.
Yeah, I agree. I have another question. I was wondering, like, what would you say peace means to you now as opposed to like 20 years ago? Like now that you've gone through what you've gone through, what does peace really mean to you now versus then?
Yeah, what comes to me, peace is that still point where everything is just okay. It's just okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have realized that it's very difficult to find that peace in the mind.
Oh yeah,
The mind goes so quickly. So,
it does.
so the only way really to get that peace is to drop down into the feelings. And it's interesting, before we did this podcast, I pulled out my journal again,
Ah,
and I always kind of love it because here it is 18 years later, and some of it is still so relevant. And the journal entry I read was around just appreciating the moment, not thinking, letting go of all your thoughts and just feel the fullness of the moment, mindfulness, whatever. One of the things I've discovered, by the way, is all our teachings, whether that are out there, the personal development, the spiritual teachings, they're all the same. And so it's important for people to find the the teachings and the teacher that resonates with you, because
absolutely.
most of it is all of the same. It's truth. It's truth. So but I believe that peace comes when you are in the moment. If you're in your mind and that mind is thinking about the future or the past, Okay. If I'm thinking, what's the next question she's going to ask? You're
Right.
thinking, what's the
You're
next
not in the
question?
moment. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so peace exists in that surrendering to the moment and
Right.
quieting the mind. And so that is easy to say, very difficult to do, especially in the world of technology and scrolling and devices. It's brutal. It's brutal what we're doing to the young people because it's hard for them to find the peace
Right.
when you're on your device all the time.
All the time. It really does make a challenging point there for them. What do you think one truth is that people resist, but that they desperately need?
Ooh, wow, that's a profound one. I don't have to be liked or loved or recognized by anyone other than myself. I
That is
think that
huge. That is
I think
nailed it.
that, self-worth. I was running a multi-million-dollar business with all kinds of employees. And as I began my journey of self discovery, I realized all I was looking for from validation. I will never, ever forget because, as our business grew, my father was going to step back and we had to go in front of the lawyer and decide what that was going to look like. My brother and I were running the business. And my mother was there, my late mother, my late father, the lawyer, and myself. And for the first 10 minutes of the discussion, I argued that the business was what it was because I grew it. And he argued the business was what it was because he started it.
But
And in that moment, I realized we were both looking for the same thing. We were both looking for that
the
validation.
validation, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's the big truth. I think that there's one Shaltazar message that I call the symphony of self-acceptance. And it's very powerful, but I think that is one of the big truths that will help you find that peace. When you stop looking for someone else to appreciate you, validate you. I share what I learned because it had a profound effect on me. And most of the time, I will say most of the time,
Right.
it doesn't matter to me if you like it, if it's of benefit. I do it because it's in my heart. It's in
Right.
my heart. And so I think that that's important. I think it's we have to stop looking for and once again, social media, all of those things take us away. Advertising, they all think that we need to be recognized and feel worthy based on the opinions of others. That is the biggest sham, the biggest fallacy, and that's one thing that has helped me. And maybe it's easier when you're old, like I am, but it's like, yeah, I'm not going to play that game anymore.
So I've got a practical takeaway for listeners that I kind of want to know is like how for the listeners out there, how can someone begin trusting their intuition? For people who are that's foreign to them, how can they start trusting their intuition?
That's a beautiful question. I think the practical answer is start small. Start small because there will be doubts because you're going to be fighting the mind, right? So you get into a meditative state, you do some journaling, you get a hit, a nudge, and then you go to, step number 5, implementation, and your mind says that'll never work. That'd be foolish. What's going on there, right? So don't start with the intuition of I'm going to quit my job
Right.
don't do that. Start small and notice when you follow your intuitive nudge what worked, what didn't, right? And if it didn't work, then you go back and say, okay, well, I misinterpreted that. I didn't translate it. So you have to understand that what they're sending us is pure. And we want it's sort of like that self worth thing. What we've got to do is build our confidence that we're getting it right. Do I always get it right? No.
Yeah.
But over 20 years, I have tested it enough times
Right.
that it really becomes it makes sense. So it don't expect the first time you get it that you're there, right? And over the years, my intuition, my sixth sense has become stronger and stronger and stronger, right? It's not every minute of every day, but when they come through, it's like, so that, when I'm coaching someone, I'll ask a few questions, and then all of a sudden, I get this download and I tell them something. They say, how did you know that? It's like, I don't know how I knew it, but it's that intuition. So I think that's the key: is start small
Right.
and get out of your mind. Get out of your mind.
I think that's a big
Uh,
one. I think that's a big
yeah,
one.
well, so play in nature, and notice when you get your intuitive hits and when you don't. When you really say, okay, all right, what am I supposed to do about this? What am I supposed to do? It ain't gonna come, right?
Right.
I'll never forget. The unseen world has a sense of humor. There was a time where I sort of said, "Okay, Shaltazar, help me with this. Here's the situation. I don't know what to do." And what I got back was, "How do we know? We've never been in human form. You got to figure that one out yourself, right?"
That's on
So,
you. Yeah.
right, and so the interpretation of that is, we're not going to give you the step by step. We're going to give you something that you need to figure out. Even the interpretation of that, although it sounded like a joke, it
Right.
was like, this is something that you have to experiment. You have to see if it works. So build your confidence. When people go to the gym, they never lift the heaviest weight. I have a personal trainer. I do leg presses. And, I've been doing it for a while, and I would do a couple of 100 pounds, 250. I've built up to 400 pounds. Not that I am a great, but it's taken months and months and months. That's the same as your intuition. Okay.
Okay.
Test it, see what works, see what doesn't work, go back, and it will get stronger, just like your muscles at the gym.
Okay. And what would you say that you're currently learning in this season of your life? So we've kind of heard back from the beginning of the story. Right now in this season of your life, what are some things that you're learning now?
Some of the big themes are the potential for the world to shift, and my divine self believes that what we are experiencing in the world now is the demolition of the old, and that we are here to rebuild the new. And the rebuilding of the new is an opportunity for a much greater feminine, gentler energy to come forth. If you read the news, you would say, this guy's crazy. What's going on? Do you not know what's going on? But that's sort of what I'm getting. I'm getting a sense that the old masculine doing, pushing, control energy is on its last legs. The more feminine feeling energy is coming forth. That we have a great opportunity to move more to a feeling culture, more
Yeah.
of a culture where we are okay feeling. And the one of the biggest themes that has been coming through, and it's kind of interesting because I got a sense that I want to bring another message about honoring your emotions, that emotions are not good or bad, and how do we feel more, and how do we deal with those lower and slower, uncomfortable, unpleasant emotions, because I was never taught to do that.
Exactly.
um, and so I decided to sort of look back, and it's like, oh my God, there's a whole bunch of messages lately on that, but I'm sensing that there's still another approach. So that one is a big theme, realizing that emotions are not good and bad. Something I learned a long time ago from the late Wayne Dyer, that I have gone deeper and deeper into. One of the big ones that I have a desire is, how do I help people understand their frustration, their anger, their hopelessness, their sadness, their grief. Shaltazar says that emotions are truth, and we need to acknowledge them, accept them as our best friend, and find the truth. So that's a big theme for me now. When I get feeling a bit depressed with what's going on in the world, how do I understand the truth in those feelings? Because if we are to become a more feeling humanity, then we have to deal with those unpleasant feelings that most of us avoid and run away from and shove back down. So that's a big theme that's coming up. And at the same time, that quieting the mind. So and and the way they bring the curriculum is not sort of very definitive. You kind of got to learn it. It's like, oh, you want me to focus on this? It's like, oh yeah, but I want you to focus on this too. And oh, here we're going to throw this curve at you. And it's like, how do I make sense of it all? And so, and I keep working through it. And
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Hey, well, as we wrap up, I have one last question for you. I want to know that if you could leave listeners with one message today, what would it be?
It's fun. It's time to find your own truth. Don't believe anything that you were taught. Find your authentic self, learn to love yourself fully, and just be who you truly are more of the time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I have had an amazing time chatting with you. This has been so interesting. I've made a little note of the Inside Timer app. I've got to go check that out. Yeah, so I have really, really enjoyed this experience. I've loved hearing your mindset, different things from your past and everything. And yeah, I just had a wonderful chat.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you so much for being a
I
guest.
enjoyed your energy. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed being here with you. And thank you for this opportunity to speak to your listeners. And I wish you and all of them well. These are difficult times. I will end by saying Shaltazar leads me to believe that we are in the energy of the great potential for change, where no change is not an option. So don't be upset if things feel like, pardon my language, a shitstorm. They are. Stay calm, stay cool, and we'll all get through this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.